Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Lubec public hearing. Again, my name is Dan Wagner, and I'll be the moderator for this evening's agenda. So at first, if I may, I'd like to introduce those seated in front of you on the left is our select board. Maureen Glidden, the chairman, Michael Scrivani, vice chairman, James Jones, senior, Joanne Case, and Sarah McConnell. Thank you for joining. And on my right, your left, is the Municipal Facilities Committee, which again also does include Maureen and Michael. Ricky Bradley, probably who's in the back, Heather Lee, seated with her husband, Joe Piscadlo, John Sutherland, who you know is also our town administrator, Vaughn Hill served as vice chairman, and myself as chairman. We have gone over the postings, so I will pass through that piece. I just have a few opening remarks, and then we'll start with a short slide presentation. The topic, as we all know, is the salt sand shed and public works garage. So at first, I'd like to give you an outline in regards to this meeting and how I'd like this to proceed. I'll give you a brief history on the committee, then present to you a slideshow, and then we'll open up the floor for questions. If we can, we'd ask you to step up to the podium there, state your name, and ask your question to the panel. The committee will answer your questions to the best of their ability and/or table your question so that we may get back to you with all the information you have asked and also prepare some of those answers for our next hearing. So before I get to the presentation, if I can review on how we got to where we are this evening. A Public Works Committee was put together back in 2011 and presented to the town plans for a new salt sand shed and town garage. At that time, the plans, cost, and location as a community were not approved. Subsequently, a committee was formed to take a fresh look at all the facilities in the town this past August of 2013. Meeting every other week, we have addressed and resolved the heating system at the town office. A pellet cost-saving heating system was recommended to the board and approved. We were in the process of working on our recycling center goals when several matters regarding the salt sand shed and garage came to the forefront, so we put our attention to these facilities. The fact is, the issue needs and prompted our immediate attention as Lubec citizens, and together we will review the facts and resolve the situation as a community. So shortly after the voting was done, the town sent out a survey a little over a year ago, and getting the survey back, the committee went with a few simple guidelines as we went forward. A, that both projects together, salt sand shed and public works garage, would be done together. Build it on the town-owned property behind the Legion, and inform and listen to the Lubec residents. So with those guidelines, we come to our first hearing. And I mention first because we will have more, as tonight is truly a dialogue of facts and information for the townspeople, and we will have at least one, perhaps two or more such hearings regarding this very important issue. So I'd like to make sure we understand there's no voting this evening, nor will there be one at the next meeting. Okay, we're going to try to keep this as informative as possible through the process. The job of this committee is to gather all the information so it can pass it on to the citizens of Lubec, including the select board for consideration. So at this point, I'll do the presentation and then we'll open the floor for questions. Okay? I may pause briefly in between if I see anybody writing little notes to give you some time. Please be aware too, I may make a note or two too, so I might be writing as well. So again, welcome to the Municipal Facilities Public Informational Meeting. And let's see if technology will work. Yeah, isn't that mouse? we're getting there. You know, you try it every time before we start, look what happens. Thank you, Renee. Okay. The purpose of this meeting is to inform the taxpayers of the recent developments regarding the condition of the existing public works garage and the hazards created by the municipal sand pile. So the salt sand shed. The town of Lubec has received letters of concern from physicians and complaints from the management at the Bayview Park Apartments about the health hazards of the sand pile and the effects on the residents of the apartments. Now, the Public Works garage, we've looked at repair or replace. The Public Works garage estimated cost to replace would be $368,200. The estimated cost to repair must include the building being brought up to code, which we can certainly discuss when we open up to the floor. We've recently, and what brought to some of these issues to the forefront, is the town garage insurance issues. Okay. Under current conditions, the property coverage has changed and likely will be removed in 6 months. Liability coverage may be removed completely, and this is per Susan Gaston, the underwriter of MMA. If we do nothing, remove all equipment and town employees from the location would be mandated from the insurance company because they will no longer insure the building. Okay, so then what we try to do in sort of general numbers is estimate a total cost breakdown of the project. Okay, the groundwork to establish the 2 new facilities at the Legion, $105,800. The sand and salt shed is $443,000, and the mentioned garage at $368,200. So we have a total estimated cost of $917,000. Now, less $52,000 in cuts that we've been able to subtract out during some of our meetings. Less $93,000, which we have in the salt shed account, correct? And less $281,000 CD undesignated, which is a refund from overpayment to Maine's retirement fund, which would leave for this project a balance of $491,000 that we would need to borrow as a town. So the $491,000 over a 20-year loan, and as I'm told at 3%, which is high, but we want to do, better to round up for this discussion, it leaves an annual payment of $33,129 and the famous 96 cents. So what we then tried to look at is, this is all well and good, this sounds good, bad, or indifferent, but what's coming out of my wallet? Where does that break down to? So we tried to do that as best we could. Mr. Sutherland has applied for some grants. We will not hear back probably till May or June. So what we did was broke it out as follows. If we get no grant and we need the entire $491,000, a taxpayer's annual bill, if you're paying $1,000, your taxes will increase $11 per year. Okay, so if you're paying $2,000 a year in taxes, you're going to pay $22. If you're paying approximately $750 a year in taxes, don't hold to my math as I see some, and we're in a school, sorry, about $8, okay? And that is if we receive no grant money at all. Next would be is, we hope, we'll receive $100,000 in grant money. Okay, that brings our annual amount to $26,000 that we need to pay. Over 20 years, per $1,000 out of your wallet is an additional $9 a year. 200,000, we go down to $6 a year. And the application grant is for a possibility of a total of $300,000. So we would have an annual payment of $12,711. Over those 20 years, at the current 3% we put it at, it would mean $4 a year out of your wallet. And we will certainly be able to go back to these, as long as I can work this. Okay? So we also wanted to put the consequences, again, of no action to the salt shed and the garage. Okay? Litigation with the neighboring property owners and residents due to the willful neglect to the environmental and health of neighboring elderly and disabled residents. We do have letters. Again, we tried to keep this presentation short, but that are available to you. We do have letters from the residents and the property ownership discussing the problem with the sand shed. Increased costs for privatized year-round road maintenance. Okay, we have looked at, there are some other townships and towns that have shipped out, right? Yeah, shipped out their whole public works department. I believe I mentioned to one of the esteemed people here that for me to understand it, I asked John, I go, can you just call some of these towns and say, would you do it again? And they all said no. It is more costful. We do have information again with that. We don't want to be here. We'll save that really long meeting that you guys had in August. So we'll save that 11 or 12 o'clock meeting for then. But again, all this information is available at the town, and we also will tell you about the meetings that we do hold every other week. Loss of additional benefits provided by local public works crew. Having spent some time doing public works when I was a lot younger, and we do have a list again that is available. The Public Works Department does not just sand the roads. It is quite a lengthy and impressive list, and I know some of the chores are not the best. Those are the ones usually I got stuck with. But it is quite a long list that we want to make sure that all the citizens we don't take for granted that they do. And loss of support for local festivals and events, marathon, the flags, the lights, setting this up this evening. So again, there are a lot of things that go unceremoniously, is that the right word? Type of work they do. And in the end, we still need to build the sand salt shed, and due to recent insurance issues and structural problems, we need to build a new garage. So again, that's where we go. So what we've done as a committee, again, we meet every other week. We've been trying to go through what happened in the past, what we need to look for going forward, and what sort of timeline we're on. And again, this public hearing came to pass because of the insurance issue with the garage. Again, in the way I like to present things, I asked John, I go, well, why don't we call the insurance company and say, what if we do nothing? And as I mentioned, clear out. They will close the building. As of now, that's probably a possibility, that they will shut the building down in 6 months. They've asked if we keep them abreast of what the town is planning on doing, so I think there is some allowance there for whatever we, as a town, decide to do. We're in that transition. I think we'll be okay. So that was a call that was made. We've tried to look at, as best we can, cost and price. Again, looking at town, we went to the Legion. As a committee, we thought the Legion property that the town survey voted on allows also an opportunity, which I think John has mentioned before, is sort of opening up all that property behind it for a business park, as it may be. So we've sort of started the pavement, started the telephone poles, started the power and the water, and given it a head start to hopefully make that more appealing, which of course builds our tax base and supports the town. So at this point, and we're at, it's only about 6:25, I'd like to open up, if that's all right, the floor for questions. Again, what we're going to try to do, if we can answer them, anyone on the committee, we will do so. We'll try to give you some information of what we've learned so far. We'll certainly take your questions, take them back to our little room and discuss during those meetings we have. I'll probably mention several times and encourage you, please, to come to these meetings. To be honest, it's a learning experience. I know a 2x4 from a 2x6, but after that, that's about as that's about as best I can do. So it's been an interesting study. So we encourage that as well. All this information will be at the town office. We also are going to include things on the website, which I'll go over later. So I see we have our first gentleman. If gentleman up at the podium, if you could state your name, please.
Bruce Wilson.
Mr. Wilson.
Went down last week and took a look at the building, did a round about the building, looked at it structurally. It has not seen a lot of maintenance in a long time. It's in tough shape. And you got an opportunity to go inside, and it looks worse on the inside. I agree with the idea that the town needs to do something about that building. It's an eyesore to the town. The salt pile, the salt and sand pile up beside is a real hindrance to the town. It's nothing attractive for anybody from away coming into town, thinking about possibility of looking for a place to have a summer home or retirement home. That's one of the areas I would hope that the town will look at to try to expand its tax base, is to make the town more attractive for people from away. I agree with the idea of doing something out behind the Legion. I do have some concerns with the cost, $105,000 for ground preparation. Can you give me a brief description of what you're talking about there?
We can if we have anyone who'd like to.
Yeah. During the original proposal, we had J.W. Sewell Company come in, and they had a list of 3 different phases of the project. It included the public works garage, the sand salt shed, and the groundwork. This includes removing the topsoil. It includes all the permitting, all the soil samples that need to be done. It includes bringing in material and building the area up. It includes sloping the area so the water's got proper runoff. That number was provided to us from Sewell. So until we go back out to bid and we get some actual hard numbers, these are the numbers that we have to go on.
Name of the company that you asked to come in and do a site survey again?
J.W. Sewell. This was the company, the engineering company that worked with the committee last year to put the project together. I mean, we haven't gone out to put the project together. Last time cost us about $44,000. So what the committee looked at is either we go back out and we spend, and commit another large amount of money, or we take some of these numbers and work them, because we understand you're going to be bringing material in. You're going to be putting water lines in. You're going to be putting power poles in. These costs here are not going to change much from the original proposal.
This has been in the back of my mind sometime, anytime I get the opportunity to talk to somebody regarding salt shed and what works and what doesn't work. And anytime I see one someplace in my travels, which Di and I do travel from time to time, I've seen numerous salt sheds and actually talked in. One that really impressed me the most was actually right here in the city of Maine. It was up in the Great North Woods. They do an awful lot of logging up there. They have an awful lot of roads that they have to maintain over the time, salt, snow, and everything else. And they had a real simple setup. It was nothing but a series of Jersey barriers. It was telephone poles with a truss tin roof. It was probably a 60 by 80 building. And I just looked at it and said, That looks like something that would work. It's easily maintained. If it gets hurt in some manner, it's easy to repair. And I'm going to guesstimate that was probably done for $40,000 or $50,000. You're asking $400,000 for a salt shed? That's quite a building.
Now, the number that we have for the sand salt shed, we went back and we talked to Bowman Contractors. They were the company that won the bid, and after the community decided not to go forward with the project, I did go back to them and get a breakdown of their numbers. 443 was the amount that they had allotted for the sand salt shed. It's for 3,000 yards. If you look at the number, the one down in Jonesport that they just put up was for 2,000 yards, and that was for about 280,000. So if you're looking for about 140,000 for 1,000 yards, 3,000 yards, if you do the math, it comes out pretty close.
You have any paperwork in the office on that one that you were looking at?
The Jonesboro?
Yeah.
Yeah, I got the numbers from Peter Kaufman. If you want to stop by the office, I can get them for you. Okay.
Pretty much the same thing applies to the town garage. What I think is adequate would be a building that's big enough to take our largest piece of equipment, put inside, and service. It's absolutely, in my opinion, no reason for these trucks to be stored inside, especially in the wintertime, because it just accelerates the corrosion and breakdown of materials when they're in a heated garage. From a maintenance standpoint, I can fully understand why you want something that you can work on and work on comfortably. And as far as that goes, in a small storage and office space for all the guys to sit down and have a coffee, rest a little bit, and keep some equipment in place, oil, grease, extra tires. And I just don't see a $500,000 being spent on something that what I just characterized would do the job. Thank you.
Mr. Wilson, thank you very much for your question. And I will tell you, when I started this committee, exact same questions, and to be honest with you, probably still have the same questions. As again, I said, I'm learning. I will say, this isn't a complete answer yet, but what I will say, what I have learned is a residential to a commercial to a municipal structure, maybe from a handbook goes from a town map to a high school book to a college, thesaurus. I mean, it's the rules and regulations. Would certainly be one to have a beer over and realize how silly a lot of them are, but unfortunately, those are some of the things we have to go by. But as John mentioned, we are continuing to look, and so again, we thank you very much for your question. Another one? Oh.
Hi, my name is Mary Ann Santos. I'm new to Lubec. I moved here at the end of August, so this is all new to me, but I plan on staying here for a very long time. My question is, will you be sending out, will there be more bids on this project? Over, of course, I know you've gotten some bids, but will you have a sealed bid invitation to some local folks?
Yeah, John, quick. I mean, I think that opportunity is available, is not for.
Yeah, well, what's going to happen is we went out to bid, and the bid was awarded to a contractor. That bid was contingent upon approval at town meeting. Where that bid was not approved at town meeting, that contractor became null and void. So what would happen is we would have to go back to the bid process.
Okay, good. So that will be open.
Yes.
And one more question. I don't know if you considered, but I looked into, in the past, steel buildings are much more cost efficient. And I don't know if that was something you had talked about or thought of as far as the salt shed goes.
Okay. Part of the proposal for the garage does accommodate steel building, and the sand salt shed is a laminated arch style building, which is like a concept not
Right.
on top of an 8-foot high cement wall. That was the that was on the recommendation of Peter Kaufman from the main DOT.
Okay. And like you said with that the mandate was with.
Yeah, you know, it's,
Building, it's a little.
yeah, I mean, it's sort of shocking. I can tell you, you need to have, because it's under the new guidelines, when you construct it, you know, it's got to be, you know, 8 feet of cement and 6 feet of this and 12 feet of that, and I'm just kind of like, wow. But again, obviously with all good intentions of the salt leaking and things like that. So, and again, we continue to bid. Some of these, again, figures we put up, we generalized up. I mean, there was absolutely opportunity, we hope, with some bidding that this price can come down. We have been able to take some off. You know, like I said, just in my simple mind of going, can we do this and this? And I believe it was one of the gentlemen on the committee saying, I think we can go with less inches of cement. That in fact was true, which saved us several thousands of dollars. So we're still trying, and we're still going to continue to work with all of your help to try to get that price down, certainly, yes.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for moving here. I'm 2 years here now.
Yeah, 6 months.
So thank you.
I have Mary Bird, and I've been here about 20 years altogether. I think there's a lot of support in town for something to happen. Everybody knows the salt pile needs to move and the building is decrepit. And everybody's worked so hard this winter in public works to keep everybody safe, and millions of things like sleepless nights for them, and everybody appreciates it. So I think there's a lot of support for this. And thank you for doing what you're doing as well. It takes a lot of time. I was wondering maybe at the next public hearing, or maybe on the town website would be easier, if the survey results could be posted, that would be helpful. And I had a few other questions. You mentioned Coughlin from Maine DOT. So when you're looking, or the town is looking at different types of buildings for the salt and for the garage, it might be helpful to us if we could have some comparisons. You know, this type of building, this square foot's going to cost roughly this much. This type of building may not last as long, and it would, you know, cost this much. I know you're not in the bidding process yet, and we don't have exact plans. Same with the salt shed. If there are different types, you say, you know, well, this is highly recommended, and this is this price, and another town did this for this price. So I think if we had some more, the next time, and people are thinking about this now, more figures to go with and facts, that would help.
Yeah.
I invited Peter Coughlin to this meeting tonight, but he has scheduling conflict.
I invited Peter Coughlin to the meeting tonight, but he had a scheduling conflict. He did say that he will make a future public hearing, and he'll be able to share with you the information that he shared with the committee. And he does have a lot of information on sand salt sheds, what works, what doesn't work, what's been tried in other communities. The sand salt shed style, the laminated arch that this committee went with is based on his recommendation. The size of the building is based on a formula that he provided. It has to do with the average amount of sand and salt needed per mile of road multiplied by our total miles of road, and that's where we got with the size of the sand salt shed. So we do plan on having Peter at a future meeting.
Yeah, that would be nice. I guess you've already explained about how you came to some of the figures. I was wondering how we got the estimates and how many different estimates we had, but maybe that's coming a little further down the road.
Again, some of the thought process when the public hearing was put together was that we didn't want to inundate with numbers. We do have some figures. We are gathering more, and we have. And again, I was going to mention near the end, we are going to post as much as we can on the town's website. As you know, the presentation as well as some of the documentation we received, and we're going to keep posting as much of it as we can, so that you are as informed as possible. As well, you can come in and get copies of these things. I mean, it's all public, record. And as this is going to be I think the second time only, that we would love to see you in our meetings on Wednesdays. We have posted that on the calendar. Usually we meet Wednesdays at 6. It used to be every other week. Due to the recent insurance issues and all, it's been every week to try to put some of this together. But it is absolutely our goal that you know everything that is possible to know. And by all means, if you know someone who can hammer something for $5 less, come down and tell us.
I had a couple more questions. You mentioned the 3% financing. Where would that be through?
But when we went out to bid last time, we sent letters out to some of the neighboring banks, Bangor Savings, Machias Savings, Bar Harbor, and we asked them to give us a quote based on the amount of money that we figured we needed. We then took some of those numbers and we compared that with what we would get with the main bond bank. And what we found was going to a local bank would be give us a lower interest rate. The number that we used for this public hearing came from a local bank, and once he gets some solid figures, he said he could probably do better interest. But again, I mean, rather than promise you something we couldn't deliver, you know, we figured that we're going to go a little bit of a high number, and then when we put the final proposal together, hopefully we can give you a better number.
And would that be shopped around, that money? Say, you know, you needed to borrow $1 million, do you shop that out?
Yeah, just like we did last time, we would send that notice out to local banks, invite them to bid, take all the numbers that they offered us, and again, compare that with the main bond bank and find the best deal for this project.
Just one more question, if that's okay. You said that the insurance folks from Maine Municipal give us about 6 months. So what happens if somebody mentioned this going to town meeting, that's more than 6 months away, or about 6 months away? You know, what happens if we lose our insurance or we don't have a good plan at that point? What are the alternatives?
Well, I think the biggest threat that we're facing right now is that if they drop the liability and drop the insurance, I mean, we're not going to be able to operate from that location. I mean, you know, this is one of the reasons why it brought this project back to the forefront. I mean, we've got to do something. We know we got to do something, and it's up to us to talk to you guys and talk to the legislative body and say, okay, let's put together a project that the community can support.
So, I'm just kind of thinking out loud, but do you think we should kind of move to before town meeting? That there would be another, you know, a special town meeting for this perhaps, before town meeting, in order to maybe at least have a vote to show Maine Municipal that we're doing something in good faith and to keep your insurance for another 6 months or however long it would take to do the project?
Yeah, I mean, the Board of Selectmen, we've had town meetings for special items, whether it was to refinance for the ambulance. I mean, we would have to go through the posting process, and there is a procedure for notification. I mean, but we could have a special town meeting to vote on this project.
All right, thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Burke. And again, the underwriter was very nice in her letter saying, you know, we will work with you, but what certainly they're looking for is some progress. But yes, what defines progress is something we need to continue to look at.
Well, my name is Ed Carter from Lubec.
How are you, sir?
I'm fine. I'd like to direct my two-part question to John Sutherland if I could. John, if you recall at that September meeting in 2012, there was a gentleman after the voting was completed that mentioned we could save some tremendous amount of money by looking into a Butler building outfit in New York. I was wondering, John, if you had heard that and if someone had checked it out, and if not, why not? And before we start going any further with the structures, I'd like to see it checked out. They claim it's, be worth a while.
When we went through the original proposal, we checked out a number of steel buildings. But I mean, the thing to realize is, these steel buildings are nothing more than 4 walls and a roof. The biggest part of the proposal has to do with the groundwork. It has to do with foundation. It has to do with water lines, water pipes. I mean, this is all included in that $368,000. The cost of the steel building, you know, does not include ADA compliant bathrooms, heating systems, electrical, and, you know, we found out through the committee that where this is a public building, I mean, we can't go down to Home Depot and buy a window. They gotta be egress windows. We can't go down to Home Depot and just buy a regular man door. It's gotta be an ADA compliant door. So there was a lot of things that were added to this structure that drove up the cost. I mean, we can look at a steel building, but I mean, it's gotta be engineered to be a public building.
Well, did you actually get any prices on the size of the building that you would be projecting?
As part of the original proposal, Sewell had a number that they had for the steel building that they were going to allot. We also looked at a couple of different manufacturers of steel buildings, and we got some of their pricing.
Okay, thank you.
All right, and I would like to say, because I had some of the same reaction, I saw some of the faces, I was one of the Home Depot guys. I'm like, let's go down to Home Depot and get some windows. And I don't know if you know where I live, but I put some of them in myself. I don't think I do too bad, they're not leaking. Can't do it. And I'm like, really? But, you know, that's what kind of started to learn in the process. So, again, I understand it can get frustrating. I'm at times equally, as we all are, frustrated, but there's some, unfortunately, some of the rules and regulations we need to go by. I think the nice bit is when all this is said and done, we hope to have a nice new facility that will last another 50 or 60 or 70 years, and then we don't have to worry about it again. As well, to be proud to bring in more patrons into the town, and as well, hopefully, more residents and a more solid tax base, I know, which is always a good thing that we look forward to. Do you have any more questions? Is it? Yeah? Oh. Are you allowed to ask a question, or?
I'd like to make a comment.
Oh, comment, okay.
One of the items that we've been working on, we found out that the 2 biggest issues was the location. So we went with the survey and we selected a site as determined by the town, and the other one was cost. When we put together the proposal last time, we had no money from Office of Community Development. We looked at their priority listing, and town garages, sand salt sheds just were not one of them. One of the issues is that when you use CDBG money, you got to pay Bacon Davis wages, and that'll increase the cost of the project. For what little money we would have received last time, the cost of the labor would have exceeded it. This time, we put in, and the priority given is to alleviate a health threat. While we've got documentation of a health threat from the sand pile, we've got documentation now of a health threat from the town garage. So we are going to be one of the communities. There are 3 communities this year that have been selected to move forward. We have a $300,000 grant proposal. The only downside is right now there's 0 money funded. What has to happen is they're going to find out in June what their allotment is from HUD. Any amount over that will go into the CDBG program for public facilities. I was talking to a lady named Terry Holden from Office of Community Development. She did tell me that there are 3 communities selected to move forward. Lubec is one of them. Our proposal is for $300,000. That's why if you look at the slide, we set the proposal up tonight. If we receive nothing, if we receive $100,000, $200,000, or the full amount. I mean, we are trying to go after money to bring down the cost of this project, to lessen the burden on the taxpayers. And as soon as we know more about it, last time I talked to Terry, she said she'd probably have an answer sometime in June. That's when it was last year. If it comes sooner, then we'll put that information out as soon as we get it.
David Gage. Yeah, been a lot of great questions asked, and they're very helpful. I just had a couple. One is the whole issue of the size of the garage. You know, from minimal to optimal size, because that greatly affects the cost. I haven't really heard much about that discussion. And I lived over 40 years in a very cold climate in northern Vermont, and we dealt with the same things, unit the same size, and we struggled with the same issue in a big way. And we didn't have the tax base actually you have here. So I'm very aware of the fact that we really got to figure out how little is enough, and yet do it well, so that it does last. And to me, there seems to be, in looking at this, having built myself a couple major projects of this size in my own personal businesses, I always like to look at those factors really well. What is optimal? What is the minimum? What are we gaining or losing by it? I know it was alluded to with, you know, bringing all the vehicles in and storing them, and we came to the same conclusion. It was more harmful to bring them all in because of the temperature factor. Corrosion is accelerated, and blah, 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 blah. And we even developed covers for the sand and salt on our trucks so that when we were out in storms, they didn't get screwed up. So, I mean, you know, I'm just curious, and I don't need an answer tonight, but how well is that really delved into? Because it makes a huge difference.
Right. I will, and we, again, will not only have information at the town hall, and as we gain information, sort of the way the committee looked at it was, there was, you know, a 60 by 80 size that we had looked at, and we, not to the literal effect of, you know, driving little trucks around, but trying to see how we could fit things in.
Correct.
And also, what was the other one, 45 by, yeah, 45 by 80, and how that effect would be. We tried to also take into consideration that there are more than several pieces of equipment that the town owns that are not on that public works site. Again, the Home Depot guy, I'm going, I don't know if an insurance company is going to be too thrilled about maybe paying for something damaged that wasn't where it was supposed to be. So we allotted for some more room for some of those pieces of equipment that are not located on that site. Taking that into, over the course of a 20-year loan, as well as 50 or 60 years of hopefully a well-established garage, how much does that kind of weigh over a decision of maybe going with a smaller garage? And I tried to look at it as maybe a bad example, but how many times, like when you bought a new car and a couple months later you're like, oh, you know, I should have gotten that extra navigation pack, you know, because it was only $2 a month over the course of your 5 years or something. So we have tried to weigh that, and we continue to look at that. But some of the factors were, there's a lot of additional equipment out there. It doesn't fit everything in there. And we did, I know we took out, I know the heating system on that first proposal, I believe, there was an underground heating system. The radiant, we took that out. Again, using potentially maybe in these discussions like Pellico again, which would alleviate the cost of the whole furnace, which is again where we started getting some of the prices down. So we are always looking at those, and by all means would love to get your input, since you've mentioned that you do and have done a lot of this work.
Well, I am in full respect of what you're doing. I'm just simply saying it's a thinking process.
Yeah. So I wanted to give you an idea. I mean, we, as best I can tell, we do try to look at all those issues, and at least at this point, it's been in the long haul.
Yeah.
The 60 by 80, again, and also not knowing what the future holds. I know one gentleman had asked a question a couple weeks ago about, you know, the sand shed and the size, and it's 3,000 square yards. Well, what if we go to a liquid? And we talked to Peter Coughlin about that, and he said, first of all, understand you're never going to stop using, you know, sand and salt, but if a piece of, that's going to need to be stored somewhere. So we've tried to look in the future without indiscriminately, putting some price tag on it. We're still trying to keep it down as low as possible. And like I said, I know 2x4 for a 2x6, so by all means, I and the committee will enjoy your input. And
Well, what about...
third time, would love to have you stop by on
Right, no, I hear you. What are we leaving out that we as a town, citizens, we should be aware of? In other words, is this going to be heated? Is the garage going to be heated? Is that price included in it?
Yeah, just not, we took out that radiant heat piece.
I understand that.
We took out, there was like a second floor piece to it, I believe, and we took that out.
We also moved the gradient for heat out, to use a thicker slab, so that stays 7,000.
Right.
Okay.
So, not to short, but it's always a continued work in process, and we're obviously in the same boat. We're trying to, and I don't know if cut corners isn't the right term, but find to every advantage for us
Right.
in these projects.
No, thank you. I appreciate all the work you do.
Thank you, Mr. Gage.
Excuse me, I just wanted you to explain your timeline. Are you waiting to hear back from the state before you make any decisions? Or when you first started, you were talking about the planned meetings.
Yeah, well, initially we do have some time. The emphasis that we really wanted to get out to you at this meeting is that we do have time for more discussion. I heard some of the responses. I had just moved to town after the last vote. We didn't have time, we didn't know there were options, we didn't know there were discussions. So we really, truly want to emphasize that no question is a silly question. If you think of something while driving to the IGA, come on up the hill and drop it off to John, because again, we're trying to keep because we've really come to a point where something needs to be done. We want to keep the cost as low as possible, yet not at the expense of 5 years from now coming back and saying, this needs to be fixed and this needs to be replaced and this didn't work. So again, as a committee, all we're doing is gathering as much information we can as a committee and as a town to then pass over to your elected officials. So we want to try to have them as best informed possible and as well knowing that there's support behind what we're all handing them. Wait a minute. Ms. Holmes.
Debbie Holmes. The reason that we're at the state that we're in, I understand, is because there's been many years of delayed maintenance on the building. Within this budget, in the ongoing budgets, is there going to be a contingency for maintenance so we don't end up in the same place again?
I mean, there is contingency money in this current plan. Again, as we never know how things work. For instance, I did an addition on my home, and while it was being built, the fiberglass company that did the installation went on strike, and I'm ready for installation. It costs a little bit more, so those things happen, but there is some contingency money in. I do also think there's a responsibility of the town and its citizens to, make sure, buy a new car, we should be, making sure it stays clean and stays fresh, and something to be proud of, again, to have people come into, obviously, a town that we've all fallen in love with. I don't know if there's certainly anything more you wanted to, something a little more professional maybe that we can add to that.
Yeah, every year when we go through the budget process, there is money set aside in the public works budget for building maintenance. That could be anything from repairing to the doors, repairing to the furnace, and there are years when we expend a particular item because we had to do a major repair. And usually Ricky is pretty frugal, and either it comes from his sand budget or from some other area that he hasn't overexpended, and we're able to keep the building up as it is. But yeah, if there is a new building, again, you know, we will continue to put money in for maintenance.
I've been on the budget committee before, and I don't remember. Can you have dedicated funds that carry over from year to year for a specific reason? Because, you know, it's obvious what's happened, and things got out of hand, and we couldn't play catch up to keep the garage maintained. And if we're going to be spending money like this, it would seem prudent that we set up some kind of continuing funds that on a yearly basis, you save for the big maintenances that may show up during lean times, and we'll have it. You know, any good businessman puts that operating, you know, aside enough operating money to operate during lean times. That's just a suggestion, and I don't know if that's something that can be thought about while we're in the process.
Ooh, everybody, quick stretch, and
I'd like to weigh in on that. One of the things that the Board of Selectmen and John are working on in another context is a 10-year plan for the town. And one of the parts of that would be road maintenance and also building maintenance. We have other buildings that have to be maintained as well. So they're all going to be in that plan. I agree with you and everyone else that said that once you put it up, you can't just walk away and ignore it. It's not so much that the building has been ignored, it's just that the building is so old that a lot of stuff has not been done to it. However, it has been maintained to some extent. Each year when the insurance man comes down, you know, we don't get dinged so much on the maintenance, it's just that you're going to have to do something. This building is too old. It's reached the end of its useful life. But yes, there will be a plan.
thank you, Debbie. You have any other? Oh, yes, please.
I have to leave. I have another meeting at 7 o'clock, but I would just like to thank this committee. They have spent a lot of time, a lot of energy on this, and I don't think they get enough, you know, kudos for what they're doing. They get a lot of negative response, but I would like to thank them for everything that they're doing to, you know, for this. I do know one thing, and the sand and salt part of it, I do know about that. Rob Hutchinson is a very good friend of mine. He's in the same business as I am. He owns Bayview Park Apartments. And believe me, he will litigate to the ends of the earth. That's the man, that's how he is. And he is not doing it because I have been begging him that the town is doing something to control that issue. So I will tell you that, personally. So it just makes sense to me, and I don't know about everybody here, that if we're going to do one, we might as well do them both. So, and that, I have another meeting. Good night.
Thank you very much. And if you are late, you can blame John.
Okay.
Do we have any other questions? Nothing? This certainly went a little, okay, absolutely.
Actually, I forgot to mention before. The budget, as you move forward with this, once you finalize your size and all, it would be helpful for all of us in running this business to understand what you are projecting, say for the next 10 years, the fixed cost of operating these buildings. I don't mean just maintenance. We're talking about heat, light, and all that stuff. I haven't heard any discussion of this, but that all correlates quite a bit with the size, etc.
Yeah, and we have had some discussions, again, regarding compliance. When you do municipal buildings, you need to have, 68 lights or something up there. Right. We're like, really? Like, yes, 68 lights. Well, we recently were looking into, you can go less with LED, they last longer. In the span and lifetime of that, it is less expensive. So
Right.
I'm not going to say we've moved to that yet, but we did touch it, so we're make sure we know it's there, and we are certainly going to address it. So thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Anybody else? We good? Anybody wanted to add anything here, or we all good?
I want to thank Renee for putting together this PowerPoint.
Yes, it was my fault that I didn't know how to get this thing working, so thank you, Renee. I will say that I moved over to this because this is my better side for that camera over there, so thank you, Renee, for complying with that. I want to just remind everybody here, and I know I said it before, but there is no vote today, there's no pending vote tomorrow. So I know we've been dealing with some large numbers, but as they kind of say in the old business, we'll just kind of take a breath and decompress. We have some time. We seriously urge you to, if you, like again, you have a question, come on up. You see me having coffee or any of us, ask us a question. We'll write it down. We will address it. We do meet. Like I said, it's been every other Wednesday. It's probably more likely to be every Wednesday. Usually it's 6. We will post that. In fact, I know we have posted this month our schedule on the calendar. Also, we were going to put the presentation and start putting in, I believe you'd asked, as much information as we can onto the website. We will start doing that as well. And by all means, you can come in and get some copies of things as it interests you, as well as any hard copy we can give you that we have down there. But most importantly, I urge if you can join the meetings. I tentatively walked in and nobody bites. And it's been quite a learning experience. And then I think would also help you all as you're trying to make your decisions as we go forward. So hopefully, that, again, when we present it to the board, is united front the right term, but that we're all happy with what we're presenting and not wasting anybody's time. So thank you all very much for attending and your participation. The last thing I ask you is tentatively we have scheduled the next meeting for March 25th, which I believe is a Wednesday. You're all required, and I have your names, to bring somebody with you. The more people we have talking about it, I think the faster we'll get done, the more educated we'll certainly all be on the subject, and I think when people talk about this topic, we'll smile instead of maybe cringe a little bit. So does that sound like a good deal? All right. Thank you again very much. Have a very safe drive home.